We are
VENOM!
no.
Oh!
Yeah, we
are
Venom. We're gonna need to work on that.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and we are going to break down all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the trailer for Venom 3: The Last Dance. And I'm also going to talk about that pretty huge Spider-Man tease that he might be showing up in this universe. And of course, a little later, I'm going to talk to Colton Ogburn and Tommy Bechtold about what the hell Sony is actually doing with these movies. Are they still trying to form their own Spider-Verse franchise, or are they saying that Venom is going to be the last non-Spider-Man Spider-Man movie before they finally sell the rights back to Marvel for good?
Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams.
But first, let's talk about these Easter eggs. Now, we open with Eddie Brock back in his own universe in Mexico.
His own universe? What do you mean?
Well, remember how at the end of Venom 2, the symbiote lets Eddie touch a hive mind of symbiotes across all realities?
Uh-huh.
Well then, as soon as this happens, Eddie would have learned that Peter Parker was actually Spider-Man, because, you know, other Venom symbionts know that in other realities. So then, in a parallel universe, Doctor Strange cast a spell that went wrong.
It started pulling in everyone who knows Peter Parker's Spider-Man from every universe into this one.
So now that Eddie has touched the minds of other Venoms, he knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And so he was pulled into the MCU. Now, of course, in Spider-Man No Way Home, the spell was reversed and all these people who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man were sent back to their own realities. So then, in the No Way Home post-credit scene, we see that Eddie has spent the entire movie getting drunk at a bar in Mexico, trying to figure out what's going on.
So you're saying that this whole place here, it's just tons of super people.
And then he's suddenly sent back home.
No, we just got here! No, not again!
Oh.
And now this movie begins with him back in Mexico, but in his own universe, wearing the same clothes he was wearing in No Way Home. The graffiti here, No Te Pierdas, translates to "Don't miss out," as in, don't miss out this final installment of the Venom trilogy. Now, I have some thoughts on the Venom trilogy that I'm going to talk about with Tommy and Colton a little bit later. Then Eddie/Venom gets into a standoff with some gang members where they try to replicate his badass ending of Venom 1.
We are Venom.
But now the two of them just can't sync up.
We are
VENOM!
no. We're gonna need to work on that.
Now, this might be because they are less connected now, or maybe it's just because the symbiote is really excited and stepping on Eddie's dramatic moment. And I liked how the symbiote used Eddie's body as a weapon, winging him across the room to kick these guys. Now, the fight ends when Venom gets to satisfy his appetite for brains, which of course he always talked about eating in the comics. So the trailer is playing the song Space Odyssey by David Bowie, which is appropriate for a few reasons. The song is about an astronaut who is sending his last message to Earth before burning up in the atmosphere.
Can you hear me, Major Tom? Can you hear me, Major Tom?
Here, we see a literal interpretation of that moment with meteors burning up in the atmosphere. But also, this is supposedly the final movie in the Venom trilogy, so time is running out for Tom Hardy's version of this character. And also, this movie seems like it's going to come full circle. The first movie ended with Venom stopping his people from invading Earth. And in this movie, his planet has finally discovered Earth and they're coming here to conquer it. And honestly, I hope they do.
Bye, stupid Earth!
I think it would be a lot of fun if the trilogy just ended with Venom's world being wiped out, and then he would blame Spider-Man, and then he would go to the MCU to kill Spider-Man, which is, you know, what Venom is supposed to want to do. But I'm going to talk theories with Colton and Tommy a little bit later. We see that the military is going to play a huge role in this film. We see Chiwetel Ejiofor playing a military commander who is heading up an operation that is trapping symbionts. We see several encased here in a lab, which could have been either from the crash ship in Part 1 or part of the alien invaders in this film. Now, like I said earlier, we see meteors arriving here, and it looks like the same way the symbiotes arrived in Spider-Man 3, when a random meteorite crash landed in Central Park and attached itself to Peter Parker. Now, Ejiofor, of course, already played a role in the MCU as Baron Mordo, and he's that character in at least 2 universes. So in this film, I guess he could be playing a variant of Baron Mordo, but that would probably mean that Sony would have to secure the rights for that character from Marvel. Remember, their deal is to use MCU characters in Spider-Man movies, and this movie does not fall under that category. But there is a big MCU tease a little bit later in the trailer that I'm going to talk about in just a second.
Patience, patience.
We see Cristo Fernandez, Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso.
I brought a bottle of mezcal to throw into the curse fire. Hey.
Now, he played the MCU bartender in No Way Home, and here we see him wearing the same shirt. However, I think this is a variant of that character because he is clearly a bar patron. Remember, No Way Home ended with a tiny little baby symbiote on the bar teasing that Venom could appear in the MCU. MCU. But now it looks like that little baby symbiote was actually just in Venom's universe, and Edgy4 is here to capture it. In Vegas, by the way, a perfect town for Venom to wreak havoc in, he runs into Mrs. Chen, who runs the local deli in the first 2 movies. And the last time we saw her, the Spot popped into her place of business and Across the Spider-Verse. And then we see the great Stephen Graham playing Detective Mulligan, reprising his role from Venom 2. Remember, that movie ended with him being infected with the symbiote, and here we see him start to turn into the villain Toxin. And then we get this really, really strange moment. Look at this long-haired, 2-armed man playing guitar in the van. That is Reeves Ifans, who played the Lizard in Amazing Spider-Man and then was cured in No Way Home. And after he was cured, he was sent back to his own universe. And here's the thing. Usually in the comics, when Connors is cured, he does not get to keep his new second arm. But in No Way Home, at the ending, it looks like he still has 2 arms. So this guy in the trailer could be Curt Connors, the former Lizard, now returned back to his home universe. So this would mean that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Venom have always taken place in the same universe. And that could mean that the movie Morbius also exists in that same universe, because that movie made a slight nod toward Venom.
I am Venom.
And by the way, Real Rejects has a great video where they break down exactly why Amazing Spider-Man and Morbius are in the same universe. You should watch that video. By extension, though, this is also telling us that Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes is now in Andrew Garfield's universe plotting against Spider-Man.
Has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
I'm confused.
Well, yeah, that's because this is all extremely confusing. Sony is trying to use their license of Spider-Man characters to create Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man in them. And that's why we got Morbius, Madam Web, and why they're going to shove Kraven down our throats at some point this year. So what's actually going on here? Is Sony trying to reboot the Andrew Garfield films as a Sinister Six movie? Should they try to sever all ties to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Now, a little bit later, I'm going to tell you what I think, but first, I want to hear from Colton and Tommy. So now I'm joined here by Tommy Bechtold and Colton Ogburn, the guy who's trapped eternally in our television but doesn't know it, so please don't tell him. Guys, I just watched this trailer and it's weird. It's setting up what looks like a typical Venom movie, but then we also have these possible connections to the Spider-Verse. So I don't know, Tommy, where your relationship is with the Venom movies, but how do you think, not really getting into theories just yet, but what do you think about this trailer and this franchise overall? Are you excited?
My relationship to the Venom movies is just what I would call like a fun fling. It's like a summer romance.
Okay. Yeah.
We met at the beach. We're not really taking anything too seriously. We're going off to college next year. I may be going off to war. We don't know. But Venom is starting a new chapter, or a last dance, if you will. I unapologetically love these movies. I don't care. I get it. We have the luxury apartments over at Disney, and me, I live down with I'm a man of the people. I'm a man of the Morbiuses. I am not a man of the Madam Web. That does not count. I will not go that far. I liked the trailer. I thought the music was fun. I love that they revisited some old scenes from the first movie. This, to me, feels like Sony's best effort at creating a franchise. Like, they're like, look, we can call upon, not that the bar was set at all high, but it's like, look, like we can call upon memories and characters from the first movie and second movie, and you remember them if you see, you actually might care a little bit about seeing some of these people come back or hearing some of these lines, or certainly "We Are Venom," would strike a chord. So yeah, I'm in. I'm not going to be a hater. I'm going to be a friend of Venom.
Yeah, I look at these movies like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, where they're not going to hurt you.
Right.
They're basically out of continuity. You can just go enjoy it. My main gripe with 2018 Venom was that it gave Sony the courage to start off all these other bad movies, and I figured that would happen. I kind of boycotted the movie because of that. Colton, what about you? What did you think about this?
Man, I really liked it. I am a huge critic of the something to do with Spider-Man, I think, universe.
Has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
But
right.
Venom, I have Venom.
That's what it's called now.
I've always enjoyed the first Venom, especially. Let There Be Carnage. I've been waiting for a Carnage, a debut in a movie since I was a young boy, and I wasn't super impressed with that, even though I was very excited for it. I mean, we had Andy Serkis in the director's chair, Woody Harrelson playing Cletus Cassidy. I was very excited. But, you know, I did recently rewatch that movie, and it kind of holds up a little bit. If you go into it in a certain mindset, like knowing, okay, this is really goofy and fun, it's a little better. Now, for the third one, look, I'm not expecting cinema here, but I am excited. You know, the thing with Venom is, and kind of like Tommy said, with Sony building a franchise, Sony made a huge mistake making this universe the something to do with Spider-Man universe. It should have been the all to do with Venom universe is what this should have been. Venom and Tom Hardy and this version of the character is so well done, and I think had the potential to be a Deadpool. You know, Deadpool didn't start out in the MCU. Deadpool actually came in at a time when Fox X-Men was, you know, on his last legs. I think that Sony Venom could have been the next Deadpool. We could have been seeing, you know, Venom and Spider-Man, you know, the MCU clamoring to get this Venom into the MCU like they were with Deadpool. Right. But they kind of botched it a little bit. But to get to your question of this movie, yeah, I'm excited. I like Tom Hardy. I like this version of Venom. I'm excited to watch it. I'm not expecting a ton, though. So I'm going in with low expectations.
I don't know why they are saying it's the last, like, why make it a trilogy unless they have plans to bring him into either the MCU, which I doubt, or to bring him into their something about Spider-Man, I think, universe. Colton, what did you think? So in this trailer, we got Reese Ifans from, you know, House of the Dragon and Amazing Spider-Man. And earlier I talked about how it looked like he had two arms at the end of No Way Home. And here we see him with two arms playing guitar. What do you think? What the hell's going on with that?
That's a good question. Well, of course, you know, he played Kirk Connors, played the Lizard in the Amazing Spider-Man films, and then we saw him again in Spider-Man No Way Home. He was connected to that whole Doctor Strange, forget Peter Parker spell thing. I suppose it's possible that he's just playing, you know, some other character, but I kind of doubt it. I'm kind of hoping that that this is like perhaps the cured version of Kirk Connors. Maybe the when these characters got sent back through the multiverse, maybe they didn't all quite land in the right universe or something, and now we're seeing.
Well, it happened with the Vulture
redeemed.
too.
Yeah, something to do with Spider-Man, I think. Yeah,
exactly.
So, yeah, I think that's total possibility. So yeah, maybe we will get to see some Lizard in Venom 3. I don't know.
Well, the question then is, like, is he a variant of Kirk Connors or is he our Kirk Connors? Because I don't think you cast the same actor to play a different role in these movies. Chiwetel Ejiofor is one thing because, okay, fine, in the MCU he's this, now he's apparently looks like a completely different character. Or because like I said earlier, if he's Baron Mordo, then they would have had to have paid Marvel for the rights to that character, and I don't think this would be so important they would want that unless, like, this military guy discovers a latent magic ability that connects their multiverse together, fulfilling whatever. I don't think that they're going that deep. Tommy, what about you? What do you think about our boy Kirk Connors? Is this the glue that's going to connect everything together?
I feel like I call this like the like greedy child syndrome. I feel like Sony is gonna throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall. I don't think they really know if this is the last Venom movie. I know that, you know, it's called The Last Dance or whatever, and Tom Hardy has said it's the last one or whatever. But when has finality ever mattered in film franchises? I mean,
nothing ever really ends.
I believe we all just saw Indiana Jones travel back to ancient Rome this summer.
Greece.
If I'm not, or Greece. Sorry, thank you. I didn't finish college.
Actually, it was ancient Greece, Tommy. Talk to
It was ancient Greece. You know what? In ancient Rome, they would have had Fiddling Nero. Was he Greek? I don't know. Little Caesar's Pizza's good. That's all I know, and that's all I need to know. Anyway, I just feel like, yeah, we get Kirk. I think it's got to be Kirk Connors. I'm with Colton on that one. Like, why? And with you, Ryan. Let him be Kirk Connors. Let him be the healed Kirk Connors, and let him be the Andrew Garfield Kirk Connors. Why not? Sony can't help themselves. There's probably, I bet you, I could see us getting some Sony-verse cameos in this movie as them being like, oh, this might be the end of Venom, but this is not the end of our insane, careening, off of the rails train known as the might be connected to Spider-Man universe. So I'm fully in on that. I also have a very abstract theory.
Go ahead.
That because Sony can't help themselves, that some of these people might peer into the Deadpool movie. like
I'm sure Sony would love that.
That's what I'm
if
saying.
They
Like,
could get
like
permission
Deadpool.
to, yeah.
Well, and also like Ryan Reynolds also can't help himself, and he's like, "What if we peeled back a door and Jared Leto Morbius was right there?"
Oh
like,
my God, yeah, that'd be amazing.
Jared Leto seems very open to making fun of. He's definitely got big. Cool guy at high school that is now like, I'm in on the joke. Yeah, Morbius, that was a crazy movie, man.
Or Matt Smith dancing would also be pretty great.
Yes.
I'm looking at it and I'm going, Sony to me feels like a boyfriend that somebody's broken up with who just can't let it go. Like they can't they can't take the word no for an answer. And frankly, like, look, with Andrew Garfield, I thought I watched the clip earlier again. It still gets me when he catches MJ, right?
Yes. Oh my God, one of the best part of the movies. Yeah.
We did get some emotional closure from that film, but like you said, nothing ever ends. And I think they would rather give us a Tobey Maguire movie with Sam Raimi or Andrew Garfield. They just want to use this IP to its maximum potential so they can make more money for their shareholders. A little bit later, I'm going to tell you guys why I think like Sony. Actually, I'm going to surprise you here. Sony, I think I wouldn't mind if they kept the rights to these characters, but there is one caveat that they have to keep in mind that I'll tell you guys about later on. Colton, who was the little boy that he was singing to in the car? You think that's his son?
It's Peter
Billy?
Parker, man. No,
it's not Peter Parker.
Look,
like Peter Parker from Madam Web, like
yeah. I was
now 10 years old, hitting the road with Kurt. Why is it? That makes no sense.
They're a traveling band.
I will not be surprised even a little bit if we never hear this child's name, or if when we do hear it, it's from this perspective, and it's like ADR of what this kid's name is, because it was originally Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Feige's like, well, if you'll look here at the contract, you can't say Peter Parker.
Just like how they never say his name in Madam Web, because technically that would count as a Spider-Man movie, which should be under the MCU.
Sony thinks they're clever. You're not.
Well, okay, maybe there's this. Maybe it's Peter Parker, but you know how like Kurt Connors was friends with Richard and Mary Parker? Maybe they're on a road trip together, and it's before he lost his arm. So, the Venomverse, they never really say when the movies take place, and they do strike me as like mid-2000s superhero movies. So maybe it's young Peter Parker,
and it is timey-wimey.
Y2K.
Are you not ruling out the possibility of an Adam Scott cameo in this movie as Ben Parker?
That'd be great.
Why is my nephew in your van?
Best parts of the movie. Yeah, exactly. He's kidnapped my nephew. He's my ward. I'm supposed to be watching over him.
I was like, this is going to be a great joke that is totally going to sell this video. Maybe they could say his name the way Peter Griffin does in Family Guy, where they could just go like, look at a bowl of peas and someone crying, and be like, there's Peter. And then a car parking, park. And then the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix, Her. Peter Parker. And then they can get away with it that way.
Like the audio equivalent of the gag at the end of Austin Powers with the penis spaceship, right? Maybe there's other MCU connections in this, though, right? We had another connection to No Way Home. We had Christos Fernandez reprising his role. I said it earlier that I didn't think he was playing the bartender. I think he's a bar patron, because Chiwetel Ejiofor comes up next to him. He just looks more disheveled than he did in No Way Home. So I think he's a variant of himself who happens to be wearing the same clothes, and Chiwetel Ejiofor comes up next to him as if he entered the restaurant and then put a glass over the Venom symbiote. So if you rewatch the end of No Way Home, it does look like, okay, so he's at the bar, he disappears, you don't see the goo on the bar in the wide shot, and then there's a close-up of the goo. So it could have been we were just looking at a shot from a different universe. It's kind of a cheat, because clearly that was trying to set up he could fight Venom in the next MCU movie. I'm not really sure what to make of that. Colton, what do you think?
I'm going to fight you on this.
Okay, fight me. Let's go.
No, I think you make a fantastic point earlier that you'll notice in this trailer, he is not the bartender, it seems. He's he's a bar patron. I think that's a great point to lend to the theory that perhaps this is a different universe. But I do have to say, and I don't think there's any disputing this, the clear intention of that post-credit scene in No Way Home. I mean, you can even hear the bartender saying that he didn't pay the bill. You can still hear him talking, like carrying on that same sentence when they cut to that shot of the goo on the bar. Clearly the intention was the goo was left behind, a new symbiote in the MCU that would go on to get with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Now, here's probably the situation. Sony probably just threw that in because Sony thinks they can do whatever they want, despite the fact that they have a contract with Marvel Studios. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't really coordinate with Kevin Feige on the implications of what that meant for a Spider-Man 4. And I think that you're totally right that perhaps they're now retconning that and saying, oh, no, this was in this universe. The goo's there. They're capturing it. I have to admit, when we were prepping for this talkback, I completely forgot that he plays Mordo in the MCU. I was going to suggest that perhaps we are seeing, like Sony tends to do in their trailers, we are seeing like a post-credit scene put in the trailer that follows up on that post-credit scene from Spider-Man, where we are seeing Venom in the MCU. I was going to suggest that perhaps that same military general exists within the MCU, but now I have egg on my face because I completely forgot.
No, Baron
that he
Mordo
is
could have a
also
twin
Mordo.
brother. They could always do that. I do think that one great thing about the multiverse is it frees actors up to play different roles, and it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, like technically John Krasinski could still play a character in the MCU, whatever. So what are they doing though? Because you have to remember one thing about these trailers, Tommy, is Sony lies. They flat out lie to us. That Morbius trailer featured, I don't blame them for showing a different scene of Vulture because, you know, you do reshoots, things like that. That's fine. But they showed the Spider-Man murderer graffiti, which was just like a poster from Spider-Man 1. They had Oscorp in the background. Like they lie to us. Where are you at on that, Tommy? Like, do you think what's up with the bar? Why do you think that they're just going to yank away? Do you think that maybe they reached a deal on Spider-Man 4 and it doesn't include Venom, so now they're trying to like cover their tracks in this movie, or they're trying to take their ball and go home?
I would say, unfortunately, it's like the creative Occam's razor, right? Like, it's like whatever makes the most sense for, like, the creative and legal team is probably what it is. And it's like, yeah, this is probably just an attempt to, like, kind of clumsily clean up. They shot their shot, as the kids would say, and they tried to get Venom in the MCU. And then Kevin Feige was like, this isn't like a game where you try to trick me. Like, the goal is not to, like, put stuff in movies where I get fooled. It's like, So now it seems like they're kind of just tying up a loose end via, you know, some multiversal hijinks, I guess. But I'm disappointed because I was looking forward to, you know, having Venom in the MCU. I still think that there's probably there definitely will someday. You know, I don't know what the version of the MCU, what phase it'll be, but Venom will probably appear alongside Spider-Man or against Spider-Man. But yeah, I just don't. I mean, you guys you hashed it all out. It just kind of feels like it's gonna be played off in this movie as like, rather than Cristo Fernandez bonding with a symbiote or anything like that, it's just gonna be Mordo going like, or not Mordo, but
lame, though. I know what you mean, but like it sucks too because sometimes you can look at these movies and you can see the arc set up. You can see like, oh, okay, so Captain America and Iron Man are fighting, so they'll be divided. You can see that coming from a distance, right? Like with Secret Invasion, you could say, oh my God, so everything's going to be divided and they're going to do a thing, and it just didn't pan out. In this universe, it looks so perfect because Spider-Man, for the first time, does not have armor. He would really run into situations where he needs this suit. Colton, you wrote a great video a few months ago where you did like a fanfic movie that was fantastic, getting into like what it would be like to see Tom Holland tempted by the dark side of the symbiote. Hell, Spider-Man 2, the video game, gave us a better Venom story, a creepier Venom story that played up the psychology of Peter disappearing into this entity than we've ever seen in a movie. But they just kind of decided, okay, we want Tom Hardy, it'll be a comedy, it'll be this, and just give us a real Venom movie, Colton, right? Like, can we just please get that, please?
I would just like to take a minute to say, and I'm not even being like hyperbolic or joking, it was such a slap in the face what they did with that post-credit scene of Venom Let There Be Carnage. That tease of Venom going to fight Spider-Man and that guy, and he licks the screen. All for it to be nothing. I mean, that post-credit scene then in No Way Home with him just at the bar talking about Stowe. I mean, I know these are just movies and stuff, but that genuinely, like First World Problems, but that genuinely pissed me off. How they just, they have like no respect.
I like that you codify that in like the world that we live in, though. And you're right, it is no respect, and they are just throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks with fans. I also too felt it was a slap in the
It's
face
why
for film problems.
it's a key example of why the Sony verse failed. You know, I don't think there's any coming back. It's a key example, I think, of why some Marvel properties are, you know, not doing so hot. They just don't respect the formula anymore.
No.
They just tease for tease sake. You know,
Well,
it means nothing. Yeah.
But you could argue that Marvel does the same thing now, the tease for tease sake. Like, we're introduced to, like, Ted Lasso characters, you know, Hercules and all these other people who we're pumped to see, but there's so many projects in the pipeline, it might be half a decade or longer before we get to see, how Shang-Chi 2 pays off in the Beacon and stuff like that.
I've said, for a long time, I've kind of been like, I found myself falling victim to going to these movies excited about what the post-credit or mid-credit scene was going to be, and it's like, well, now I've totally lost the thread of what I was originally liked about these things, because now I'm just like, what's next? It's like chasing a high almost. And I feel like these Sony movies have really become like the first ever like meme movies. Like, these are like, this is like a meme franchise now, where it's basically like Craven has now been delayed twice. And like that crazy quote that who knows how accurate it was, but where like the guy from Sony was like, we're releasing it around Christmas so people who will be able to go see it multiple times. That feels like something said sarcastically inside a boardroom.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like that they like that the fact that was published alongside with the reason for why the movie was delayed. It's like Madam Web, from its like second trailer, became a meme film, because it's like Dakota Johnson looks totally disinterested. There's that crazy line about died while researching spiders in the Amazon, in the 2 weeks in the Amazon, whatever. It's like, so Venom is kind of the only one of those movies, or the only three of those movies, that has escaped that up until now. But it's like they do, you're right, Colton, with the like kind of erasure of the promise of the earlier post-credit scenes. It's like they do kind of fall back into now another Sony meme culture movie, where it's like, this is all, nothing really matters. This is just like a complete F around, but I don't know.
I would say these are the only movies that actually know what they are and how the audience perceives them. You know, the fact that the first movie really came alive when Venom and Eddie had this buddy cop dynamic.
Yes.
And they stuck to that. They realized that's what works. Whereas like Madam Web and Morbius both took themselves so seriously that it was just... Oh, gosh.
I'll never forget.
Fun. I've seen Madam Web more times than I care to admit. Yeah. Like, that movie's a good drinking
That
movie.
last scene where they're all ordering takeout and she's just staring out the window with her ridiculous sunglasses and, like, and, like, in the chair. And, like, the fact that, like, in the hospital, she's like, I've got all I ever wanted, after just being miserable the whole movie. It's like, like, getting paralyzed is the best thing that ever happened to me. Like,
and we actually did a great video breaking down all the reasons why Madam Web is the best superhero movie ever made, too. You guys should check that out.
Yes, please.
It's one of my favorite videos we've done this year, and I'm shocked it hadn't hit a milli. So, real quick, Tommy, where can people find you at if they want to hear more of your thoughts on Marvel and stuff like that?
You can find me at Guardians of the Galaxy, at GotPals on Twitter, and at Guardians of the Galaxy on YouTube, and you can always find me at Tommy Bechtold on all platforms. Thank you.
Yeah, great podcast you do with a lot of friends of the channel.
Yes.
Highly recommend it. Link is below. Colton, where can people find you?
Oh, here on ScreenCrush, man.
Yeah, find me on ScreenCrush, too. I want that, too. Find me on ScreenCrush.
And Tommy's on here all the time as well. So, again, like, I want to tell you guys now what I think Sony could actually do that I think might make all of this spider stuff worthwhile. Colton, Tommy, thanks for joining me. So, guys, years ago, I would have said that Sony should just sell the Spider-Man rights back to Marvel, because it's, like, so much fun to see these MCU characters interact together. But now, I'm not so sure. The last few MCU films and shows haven't really felt like Marvel is wanting to take any risks. Now, Venom is not a film they would have ever made in the MCU. Now, I'm not saying that all those movies are great, but they are a lot of fun, and some of them take big creative swings. I think that different studios interpreting Marvel characters in different ways can be a good thing. Like, I don't think that Marvel Studios would have, for instance, ever made Logan or the original Deadpool. But the key thing here is that the movies have to actually be good. Madam Web was such a clumsy attempt to set up an extended extended universe of multiverse films that they just kind of forgot to tell a story with characters that, we actually care about.
Hope the spiders were worth it, Mom.
So Sony, I'll make you a deal. You can keep your spider characters if you actually make good movies. Don't try to force us into team-up movies with half-hearted post-credit scenes with placeholder dialogue. Give us experimental Spider-Man films. Adapt the great storyline by Dan Slott where Dr. Octopus takes control of Peter Parker's mind and then tries to prove that he could be a better Spider-Man than Peter Parker. Or, instead of a Kraven solo movie, give us Kraven's Last Hunt, where he hunts down Spider-Man and buries him alive and then takes his place. Just do something.
Or get the f*** off the stage.
Well guys, that's just my thoughts on the Venom 3 trailer. Let me know, do you think the movie looks good? Tell me down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.